Fandom, the official podcast for ProjectFandom.com. I'm your host, Nina.
I'm Donald.
And I'm Katie.
And we are back to discuss Flower of Evil, episodes 5 and 6. I have notes. I'm so proud of myself. This fucking show. I don't even know. So much happened.
But then again, not a lot happened. Like, I was thinking about that. Like, so much happened, but then it didn't really progress the story.
We learned some stuff.
I don't know.
Kinda. It just felt like
The wife is on his ass.
Yeah,
what do you mean
wife,
not a lot happened?
Well, I mean, and we had already gotten that from the watch, but I think this just kind of sealed the deal of, yes, the wife knows who he is, but I felt like everything else just kind of shut the door, and like it was just like everything always gets covered up, so it's not a whole lot progressed on for me on his now we know that like the son hit him, was the one that hit him in the car.
Yeah.
But as far as we still don't know what happened, why that son's hidden in a coma or whatever fuck he said.
Right.
Like, but I don't know. I just feel like there's still a lot there's still a lot out there to be uncovered. And then the whole taxi thing was just, I don't know, it was just kind of over and done with.
Not really. Okay, I'm gonna punch you in the face because, but what I really was gonna say was, but this is so Dexter though.
It is. It's
because you got to keep it going, right? Yeah. Like you're gonna get these like close calls, and it's like, oh my God, surely he's caught, but like, so it kind of moves forward a bit in that people start to get more suspicious, or threads are out there that could come back and fuck him later that he doesn't even know about. For instance, his wife, all the digging she's doing. But it's still got to kind of keep it, so that the show can continue. It's just like the formula of it, I think.
What is the name of the guy who's always suspicious of Dexter, the black guy?
God, what was this?
Dopes.
Surprise, motherfucker.
Dopes.
Dopes, that's right.
He was only in for fucking the first season. That was it.
Yeah. No, he was in more than. I think he died in like season 2.
Yeah,
he did, but like early on in the season,
It was so funny when he was like in that scene where he was like, "Surprise, motherfucker!" And he was like, Dexter came up with some fucking excuse for like why he was there. He was like, "I have like a theory." And he's like, "Okay, I'm a cop. We love theories. Spin me your yarn, motherfucker." You had the best lines. I swear, I don't think I've seen that man in anything else.
Nope.
Let me go look him up.
But it's weird because it's like such an iconic role. You can
Yes.
recognize him immediately in anything else.
Oh my God.
But his sister didn't know. She did eventually find out he was a serial killer, right?
Yeah, remember when she
Dexter.
fell in love with him?
The sister?
Yes, in the show, Deb fell in love with Dexter and she kissed him and all that.
I didn't get that far.
Yeah.
I didn't get to the incest.
But she didn't know they were brother and sister?
Yes, dummy. What is wrong with you?
I'm confused.
They lived,
like
they grew up
I don't
together.
remember there being incest.
But no, because, well, it's not really incest because
They're
they,
step-siblings.
yeah, well, like he was adopted.
Yeah.
So they weren't blood siblings, but they did grow up together. And then she started having like dreams about him and stuff. Because remember, the actors were married.
Right.
For a while. In real life.
See, and that's where I feel like this is going. Like, his wife's going to find... Like, she already found out, but it's going to be a kind of thing where she's going to keep the secret. She's going to know, and she's going to get the truth and all this stuff.
She basically said as much... She basically said as much when...
She was interviewing the sister.
Yes. No, not the sister. The wife at the end.
Yes, the wife, yes.
Because I think what I like about this is she's piecing together that he may have issues. Like, she's remembering the things he said to her about how he feels about himself and his behavior. And she's remembering how he was. Right. And then she's remembering how he was after they got married with their kid. And so that's where she's like, that don't mesh with me, right? So if he is this Hyun-soo guy, Do Hyun-soo, then I don't think he was responsible for like that stuff with his dad. Now, she does think that he killed the village elder. So she's like, he has to answer for that.
I don't know. I felt like in that conversation, she was kind of like, there was no witnesses. There was no proof that he actually did it.
Well, but I mean, she said as much, though, right?
Like, that's a fact.
Right, that's a fact. I think, and I don't know, like, if we don't know enough. Like, I don't know if the sister stuck around to answer questions, because we find out in these episodes that the reason that they were even with that man is because he took them in.
Yes.
After the father killed himself.
Right.
I have a feeling he was protecting his sister. I mean, it was probably...
because the sister had blood all over her.
Right.
Like, they were both involved. And then that's when, like, in the whole hospital scene, he's like, I want you to go live your life. I'm going to go. I don't want you to come find me and all this stuff.
So the actor who played Dokes was actually on 4 episodes of Banshee. So I have seen him again because I've seen the entire season of Banshee, but I just don't remember that. The entire series of Banshee. And then he's done some other stuff. Most recently in 2020, an episode of The Good Fight, or 2 episodes of The Good Fight. So, okay.
I just wanted to say I brought him up because I wonder if that's who the other detective is kind of...
Yes. He can't stand his ass.
Yeah.
And we find out that shit is from way back.
It's personal.
Yeah. He was like, you need to dump him. He weird. Okay. So what did you think, Kaylee, of these 2 episodes?
I like them. I'm having a hard time remembering what was in these 2 episodes because we watched one late at night and then we watched the other one the next day. Mm-hmm. And I'm trying. It's hard for me to kind of separate the 2. Okay. But for like a majority of these episodes, I felt like we were always in the hospital.
Yeah. Yeah.
So. The second episode, we were in the hospital.
Yeah, the second episode was the hospital. The first one was the chasing
kidnapping,
down. Yeah. Him being tortured. And it was,
that's right. It's picked up with, okay. Yeah.
And it was like, I love the fact that like we had questions while we were watching that kind of got answered in the second episode. Like, just like thinking ahead. Because again, it's like, even if she finds out, like we talked about it, like she may keep it to herself because she's like with the watch, right? Because she'll have suspicions and stuff. So you're just trying to figure out like what is going to be the thing to make people start asking questions. And I said right away, they're going to be like, why did he torture you? Why didn't he just kill him like he did everybody before and all that? Anyway, go ahead.
I'm done. I think that's it.
Okay.
I'm still enjoying it.
What about you, Donnie? Did I...
Yeah, no, I like I said, this show is overly dramatic.
It's a K-drama. You're just going to have to get... Oh, he wrote me that. He wrote me earlier today. He's like, this show is so dramatic. And I just laughed.
It'd be 10 minutes in, and then they do that very tense, dramatic music. And I'm like, we just started. But that end of episode, because I watched episode 5 last night and then 6 this morning. And the way episode 5 ends, that shit was too dramatic. Like, they made you think this man was dead. They showed you flashes of his whole life. And I was like, what the fuck? We watched this like 5-minute montage of this guy's life. Right. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on?
To their house for the first time.
We actually paused it, and I
was like, is he dead? Like the way they played it, I was like, shit, did they really kill off the main guy?
We were so confused. I was like, Kaylee, because they were showing us the montage and stuff. There was shit we never saw before.
Yes.
It was like stuff that would be like in the future.
In the future, yeah. And I was like, why is this happening? And I was like, did we like, to the point where I stopped it, remember? Because I was like, I don't want to get spoiled. I don't know what the fuck is happening.
There was like a scene where like they were arguing.
Yes.
Him and his wife.
Yes.
And he was like, he had like blood on his head.
Yes.
And we were like, what?
What is happening?
What happened?
Yeah. Super dramatic. But that's K-dramas for you. And it felt almost like a mid-season finale maybe, but they don't really do that in K-dramas. They just run everything straight through. So, and it's typically like one season and done with K-dramas. So, all right. I'm still loving it. I have nothing bad to say. It's a lot, but that's what K-drama, that's why I'm watching K-dramas. I'm watching for this because it's a lot. It's a lot. Okay. So the 5th episode begins 2006 winter, where she's working at her mom's. Kaylee, you said this is her mom's convenience store, and he comes in to buy cheap. I put cheap beer because he put down 2 cans of beer, and she was like, that would be 2001. I was like, that's $2. That's less than $2. Okay. And
you're not wrong about cheap beer.
When the power goes out, she tries to like, I'm scared. Last time the power went out, some stores around here got robbed. And he was like, all right, bye.
I know. And she's like, but they never caught him.
And he just left. He was like, sucks to suck, I guess.
But then he stayed outside.
Yeah. And then I told, like, so many times that we're talking about this, like, especially in the beginning when she's trying to, like, get with him, I'm like, girl, you are so thirsty. Leave it alone. And then I told Kaylee this. I was like, oh, okay. I get it. I would have, yeah. I was like, this would have worked on me. If I saw his little creepy ass standing out there until the lights came back on, I'd have been like, oh. Because that's what women do. We think we can change a man. Like, the whole time she's just ignoring. It's red flags. She sees a parade. She just thinks this is something good. So then it goes to 2008, the spring. And she tells him, I know you like me, right? Like, because, like, I just saw the way you were looking at me. But, like, the way he was looking at her, like, he was, like, in his head. It was so weird. I was like, how'd you pick that up, sis? But okay. And they do circle back around to this later, right? Yeah. That scene, because he sees his dad in the distance. Okay. So one of the things I messed up on by not having notes was the names. I completely fucked this up. So Do Hyun is not his name. Do is his last name. Hyun Soo is his name, his real name. And his sister is something else Soo, right? Hey Soo, that's right. And we talked about that. It's sometimes it is common for siblings will have one of the syllable blocks will be the same, right? So after the husband, so what are we gonna Hyun Soo? That's just his name. I'm gonna call him his mama name of Hyun Soo. I'm gonna call him Hyun Soo. So after he gets in the cab is when he gets the call from the reporter, and he learns that the cab driver is the husband of the last missing of the last victim whose body was never found, and he snatches the picture from the cabbie and rips it up, and then stabs the cabbie in the leg when the cabbie tries to chloroform him.
Would then make sure.
But the clock
that he punched.
When that woman came in there, the Airbnb, and she was like, "Did you call a taxi?" I was waiting for her to be like, "What the fuck happened to my clock?" But he ends up, like, he crawls to this fire and he does burn the picture and drops his phone, but he gets gripped up. He gets kidnapped. And she sees it all.
She reacted way too late, I think.
She watched the whole thing.
She waited till they were gone.
And then the wife, Ji-won, she does say that the watch is hers. She claims that it's her watch. And then they get the call about the kidnapping at the bed and breakfast. Now, because this seems to be all the same little small town and all the elder people know Hyun Soo, I was like, why wouldn't the bed and breakfast lady recognize him? But it makes sense also that she wouldn't. Like, we don't know when she got there or how far that is from where they live. Yeah.
New business.
Back at the police station in Seoul, the boss comes in and he is pissed because they allowed themselves to be recorded by this murderer. And then they just had this big ass fight in the police station.
It's so comical.
It was just like, why are we doing this? And at the Airbnb, the wife finds Ji-won finds his phone. And now she's even more, she's like, she goes, I think the kidnapped victim is my husband. And, oh my God, what is his name?
The other detective.
Santa. That we call Santa.
Yeah.
Because he reminds us of Santa from Inspector Coup. Mm-hmm. He's like, why do you think that? And then she's like freaking out because, the phone, obviously.
She's like, that's a picture of my daughter.
Mm-hmm. So we were confused because the reporter is being treated and the doctor who's treating him for his wounds is like slapping him in the back of the head. And we're like, what the fuck is up with this? But then it was like, oh, this is a doctor he's known, right, because he used to live here. And it's through him that... him and then later a cop, that he learns that there was a witness to the kidnapping of the cabbie's wife, right? Okay. The cabbie takes Hyun Soo to the abandoned pool, and And, you know, he's constantly asking about his wife's whereabouts, where her body is. And then he pulls a Mike Tyson. And this is where I had to pause it and explain to Kaylee what happened to Evander Holyfield.
Jesus.
She's young. She don't know. It was well before she was born.
You said you were there.
Did you see they just came out with their own line of weed for that?
That's what I told Kaylee. I was like, they just came together and they're promoting something.
Yes,
and I could not remember what the product was. It's weed?
Yeah. Mike Tyson's got his own brand of weed.
That's hilarious. So yeah, he bites the guy's ear off, like a piece of his ear. Oh my God. So when all of this is now on the news, and
I did like this because he's telling him here, like he's telling the truth. He's like, hey, he goes, yeah, but you were there, you were with your father, you were working with them, and he goes, no, I told the police the truth. Like I was an alibi because we were together. Like, and I truly believed him through all that. So I like that the reveal later is, okay, there's somebody else involved. There's another accomplice. Because I truly believed him in this. Like, every time he was telling this guy the truth, like, I had nothing to do with it. Yeah. I didn't know about my father being who he was until after he was dead.
The fake parents, Hyunsu's fake parents, are like discussing like what this means and how they could get caught. And the father is like, actually, this just kind of like works for us. Like, we can just play dumb. Like, we were just taken advantage of by this serial killer son. And I'm like, how would you how
he was like, we're just gonna say we had no idea. And like, how do you, it's your son.
Yeah.
How is your son lying to you?
Like, how did you, because he dyed his hair blonde like your son? Like, how did you not know this wasn't your son?
You replaced my son. Where is he?
So the cabbie starts to fill the pool, and it cuts to the reporter having drinks with the cop. And the cop doesn't want to tell him anything, but they're drunk. So he does let some stuff slip, and then the reporter's like, I'm going to go to the bathroom. And he walks
into the hallway.
And he starts writing down all the information on his arm so he won't forget it.
And he thought he was faking being drunk, but he wasn't.
He wasn't. He was like, I need to write this down before I pass out.
His handwriting was surprisingly neat and straight.
But like, what if you like take a shower? Like, you don't even like... So we see through a flashback in Hyunsu's mind when the cabbie confronts him about it, that keychain was given to him by his sister at the dad's funeral, right? So I'm like, are they setting her up to be the, because...
That's what I thought.
Yeah, I was like, what the hell? But we find out later that someone gave it to her. So we do have another player. Huh?
She could be lying.
True, but we did see a man in the witness's flashback pulling that woman into...
Was it a man? We didn't really focus on it.
No, they didn't, but I thought it was a man. Okay, maybe not. So they end up... This was, I thought, like a far-fetched whatever, but I'll allow it. They find the location that the husband, Hyunsu, is being held through the locksmith who installed the new digital lock on that location for. So they go to the cabbie's house, they dig through his trash, they find the receipt for the company, and they call it.
They did it really quickly.
Yeah. So when they bust in there, though, his head is under the water in the pool, and Detective Choi, ends up getting stabbed. I thought Choi was dead.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, this is some fucked up shit.
And it's so funny because, in the second episode, he just walks in with the IV or something.
So you remember when we watched the second episode, because they, things were, out of order, right? Like, they showed us a flashback where the husband had been unconscious for 5 days. And the wife confronted these doctors in the hallway. Do you remember that, Tawny? And she was like, when is he going to wake up? And and she had just been sitting by his bedside. Because we'd already seen the husband wake up at the beginning of the episode, I thought this was the cop that got stabbed. Right. So I was like, holy fuck, he really fucked, because he's like on a ventilator and shit. Yeah. So when she was confronting the doctors, remember, I was like, sis wasn't even like this over her husband. Why is she so... And Kaylee was like, no, I think that was her husband. I'm like, but wait, he's already awake. And then we find out he was actually unconscious for 10 days.
Yeah.
Like a lot of time.
He was going out, in and out.
So that means the cabbie pretended to be incoherent.
Right.
for 10 days. He just laid there looking up at the ceiling.
Yep.
Not answering questions.
He's like, he's waiting for him to kill him.
Yeah. So, but yeah, in this scene, Choi is stabbed, and she's trying to get, Ji-won's trying to get her husband out, and she's like breathing into his mouth, and I was just getting so frustrated. I was like, girl, go get something to cut those ropes. But I realized, I think, because I can't swim, that she realized she had to get him air first and get him like conscious, I guess, again. I don't know. Because it wasn't until he kind of woke up then that she like went to try to get the, and I was like, how the hell is she's like 4 pounds soaking wet? How is she going to drag his wet, unconscious, dead weight ass out of this pool? Right. But when the cabbie holds the knife to Detective Choi's throat and he's telling Santa, like, shoot him, just shoot him, don't worry about me. I was so scared he was going to get his throat cut, especially then when he, like, pushes back and he hits his head. I was like, oh my God, like, the movement, I thought the knife was going to cut his throat, but, and I thought, I have in my notes, taxi driver dies. I thought he was dead. But when he hit that, I thought he was gone. So then it's when she is like performing CPR on him before we get that weird fucking 5-minute montage
of his life.
Is a flashback to him apologizing, saying that, you know, he's kind of fucked up, and she's just like, again, parade. She don't see any of these red flags. So the next,
I don't know if it was here or if it's in the next episode. I do like that, like it showed us like that how his father like disappeared from his thing because she was around. I don't know if it was this episode.
Yes, yeah. That
they kissed.
Yeah, that's what it was. Because then he goes and kisses her again. He's like, I like my father ain't around.
But I think he said that before. Even before episode 5. I think it was in 1 and 3 or 4 where he said that's what he liked about her. Oh, okay. Yeah. And then...
But we actually got to see.
Yeah. So episode 6 begins with the car accident, and it was the son who hit him, Hyun-soo. Right.
But it wasn't what caused his coma.
No, he got up and they just...
I was like...
We never saw what happened. Like,
no, he's like, call 911. And he's like, I'm going to call 911. And he was like, no, you're not. And then he didn't. So
right.
Like, okay.
It's almost like they became friends. They lived together.
But how we get from there to there?
Exactly.
It was so funny, though, because when he's like, don't call the hospital, the next scene is him in a stretcher at the hospital. So you're like, oh my God, he called the hospital.
He's like, fuck you. I ain't going to jail. This was an accident.
Present day.
But, he brought him home like a pet. Like, Mom, like a bird with a wounded wing. Can we keep it? Like, what the fuck? So he wakes up in the hospital. He immediately thinks his ass is going to jail. He has, like, even to the point where the cop is like, yeah, that he put handcuffs on him or whatever. And I told Kaylee, I was like, I would say I don't remember. I'd be like, the last thing I remember is I was at work.
And they come out and the doctor's just like, You're going to have memory loss.
Right. I was like,
you're giving him a fucking excuse.
And so then when he couldn't remember his daughter, I was like, oh, that's really fucked up of him to do that.
I knew right away he was lying. He was faking it.
But I knew he was faking, but I didn't know he was faking as a joke. Does that make sense?
I knew.
Oh, that's fucked up.
Because I remember thinking to myself, that'd be funny if he said that. And he
that
did.
poor
I'm
little
like,
girl.
And she was like, I hate you.
He's just being a terrible father.
So then his parents arrive, and
they're the fucking worst.
Oh my God, they're like, we need some privacy, and her mom is like, what the fuck you mean?
We're all family.
Oh, let's figure out. I mean, her dad. Now we get her dad is the doctor here at this.
Yeah, they're like, he's a big deal at this hospital. Nico, please shut up. Which you can tell because that hospital room was so fucking nice. Like, it had a dining room.
It was a VIP room.
Yes, it did. That's right. It was a VIP. That's right. And then the daughter is such a fucking brat. Like, when she didn't want to leave. And she was like, I hate mommy. But then when they get to the elevator, she's like, bye, mommy. I'll see you later. I was like, you little bipolar child.
You apologize.
No, at all. Nico, stop. Her mom they just encourage that behavior where she's just allowed to be shitty 1 second and just like sweet the next without any kind of like, no, you don't talk to your mom like that. Nico, stop.
Like,
growling in the microphone.
Normally be fine if he's right next to the mic. You could just move away a bit. Is he licking your foot?
Yeah, he's looking. I can't read what this says. The taxi driver, what?
Why do you need me to read your handwriting?
I don't know what that says. Taxi driver seal. I don't know.
Taxi driver con.
I don't know. I don't know what I wrote, guys.
He didn't do anything. Taxi driver just, I mean, he didn't
He's just,
talk until
yeah, I think this might have been just like, oh, he's not dead. Basically, like, you realize that and they're waiting for him to, like, wake up so they can charge him and question him.
Well, he is awake, but they think he's, like,
to be coherent, yeah.
Right, but his father's like, no, we need to kill this dude.
So again, they mention the father when the mom, the fake parents, when she's just like showing her ass in that hospital room, the father is like, your temper got us in trouble 15 years ago. So I think Kaylee may be right.
She's the reason my son's in a coma. Maybe she pushed him and he hit his head or something.
Because when he brought that bleeding man home, she's like, what the fuck is wrong with you? And they're like, well, I guess this is our son now. Nico, can you please sit down? Anyway, so yeah, the father, Hyun-soo speaks with his fake father alone, and he's just like, we might have to kill this taxi driver. And if you want to do it, I'll help you. But it got to be tonight.
His father's so cool.
He really is.
And he had like a whole. He's like he's addicted to this drug. It's gonna kill him. Just need a little bit more.
So then the reporter corners the witness at her job cleaning bathrooms, and she was basically like, she slips up and she says, like, what if he finds out I told you, or something like that. And again, they're still thinking it's the father was the serial killer, the son maybe was in on it, but right. Like, so he's like, who's like, who are you talking about? And then she like she doesn't say anything this time. She like tells him to leave, right?
Yes.
So they're gonna question Hyun-soo about what happened to him, and the young cop, Santa, that's what I'm calling him. If you're like, that's not his name, I know, I will look it up for next time, but I call him Santa because he reminds me of a character by that name from another K-drama we covered, Inspector Ku. Get into it. It's on Netflix, and then go listen to the podcast. He had a questionnaire. So what was he going to do? Was he just going to leave it with him like a survey?
Yes.
Like, fill this out?
Yes.
So the husband ends up being questioned by Choi. This is the first time we see Detective Choi. He comes walking in with his IV pole.
He's like, I find that you guys didn't visit me. I'm sure you guys are busy.
For 10 days. For 10 days, nobody visited his ass.
And he's suspicious of him. And, like, so the way it's set up is Hyun-soo's sitting on the hospital bed. He's sitting across from him in this chair. And between them is the camera, like, filming the whole exchange on a tripod. And just the focus on the camera a few times, I remember thinking, he's going to flip this in a way that, because it's looking bad for him, like how he's being suspicious. He's like, why did he torture you? Why didn't he do this? And his excuse was he had a vendetta against cops. So he said, I tried to appeal to him, like, oh, you don't want to kidnap me. My wife's a cop. And because he doesn't like cops for failing to find his wife, he was like, oh, I'm just going to torture you then, right? So, but I knew he would eventually flip it, and he did. He was like, so when Ji-won and I were dating, you told her that I was no good, and so, like, it feels like this is personal. Like, you're being emotional. I was like, oh my God, he's good. So that's how he kind of gets away with that, right? But, well, he gets out of having to answer, like, tough questions, right? Because Choi leaves, right? And then the wife of the man killed in the Chinese restaurant that the cabbie killed calls Ji-won, and she's like, oh, I have something about Do Hyun-soo to tell you. She's like, as soon as I'm done dealing with this, I'll meet with you, but don't tell anybody else. Like, she tells the wife, don't contact any other cops. So she was like, no problem, sis. I'll let you get the credit. That's what I would do if there was a black woman cop. I'd be like, no problem, sis. I'll tell them white folks. And then there's this weird fucking, there was like, I don't know if I have it in my notes. So, yeah, I don't think I have it in my notes. So I'm going to say both of them now. There's this one I don't have in my notes. The reporters at the sister's house were so out of pocket.
Oh, yeah.
And rude.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
like, and he was like, "You're pretty." Like when
Yeah, that's just yeah.
I would have just thrown water on them. I would have
let her close the door. I
It
was
was
like,
just-
yeah, this is too much. And then she lost her fucking job over that.
She lost her job over it. Yeah, I do have that in my notes. But then there's G1's in the hospital, and like all of a sudden there's just like a news story on the TV in the hallway about there's a reporter at the old house.
We were like, is he about to be in there?
He was like Geraldo Rivera looking for fucking Al Capone's vault. Remember that, Tony?
Yep.
And there was like nothing in there. It was so
Yep.
stupid. But anyway, he goes down to the basement. He gets in the cage. He's like, and I'm a big man, and this is hard for me. You can imagine a little lady in here. I was like, oh, I hate it. But he finds like a zip tie, which is important later. He's like, I imagine this is what he used. I'm like, why is this still there? Isn't that evidence? Like, when you test that for DNA? Like, what are we doing? So she kind of freaks out on her husband. And she says it's about him, like, because he's like, you should go home because you're probably tired. And she's like, don't you know what it was like for me? You were missing for 10 days and blah, blah, blah. Or you were unconscious for 10 days. She kind of freaks out. And then she actually says to him, like, who are you?
Yep.
Which I was like, she's going to pull that watch out. But she didn't.
At first, I was like, she's kind of over-exaggerating, right? But then later, we were like, oh, well, given she knows what she knows.
It was. I knew she, like, when the doctors came in there and questioned him and asked him his name and stuff like that. Just
She
her
was
expressions
off
on her
then, yeah.
face, I was like, you could tell she knew he was lying.
Yeah. And then we find out here that she absolutely did, because when the episode began, it was a voiceover of him talking to his sister.
Yes.
And he was saying Nuna, and I was telling Kaylee, like, when he says, well, Kaylee already knows this, but boys in Korea called older sisters Nuna. Girls call older sisters Oni, which is why my Korean-speaking friends, it's so sad, I'm the oldest female in my girlfriend group that speaks Korean. I'm the oldest, so they all call me Oni. I have nobody called. I don't have anybody to call that. It makes me feel bad because I'm old. But anyway, so every time he said Nuna on the screen, it would just say, hey, Sue, her name. Mm-hmm. And so he's like, the beginning was him saying this to her, like, live your life. Don't look for me. I will never live as Do Hyun-soo again. I've forgotten that. So then we see her remembering that at one point when his ass was unconscious in them 10 days, he woke up, called her Nuna, and I was like, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit. Because he ain't got no siblings. So she's going to be like, why is he calling me sister? Right? And then he gives the rest of the speech. I'd forgotten how it ended.
How he said his name.
Yes. Because I was like, how much did he incriminate
Like,
himself? He
Yeah.
told
right
it all.
He said it.
Yeah.
I was like, because I remember the speech, and I'm like, what did he say? What is there anything super incriminating?
That's what I was
that he
thinking,
said?
and I
My
couldn't.
brain's rushing to remember. I'm like, oh, that's right. He said his name.
Yep. So now we see. Now it's all justified because she
Yep.
knew. She knew before we knew she knew. The sister is fired from her job, and we learn there's like a flashback because she thanks her boss, and he's like, "Why are you thanking me?" And she's like, "Because you didn't treat me unkindly, and you didn't, you know." And she remembers how the reporter broke up with her when they were teenagers.
Yeah.
Because her father was creepy.
He said, you remind me of your father, which makes me wonder if she's also kind of off.
Why do you keep trying to make this poor girl?
She doesn't seem off to me.
Yeah, right? Like,
Yeah.
but we haven't seen much of her.
Right,
so.
right. And I'm sure I'm like almost positive he killed that man for her.
Mm-hmm.
So then the reporter goes to the witness's house, and he's like ringing the doorbell on the intercom, and he's like, I gotta go to the bathroom. All right, I'm gonna take a shit right here. He starts to pull down his pants. I was like, dude.
He goes out his shit right here on your doorstep.
And I love that the daughter came out and it just was so Gen Z to me. She was just like, no, this is not what we gonna do. What we gonna do is call one
right here. I'm gonna hit this button.
I have like if this was in America, she'd be like, I'm going on Facebook Live right now if you don't get your ass up. Fuck calling the cops. She'd go make him go viral. And that does scare him off.
Yeah.
At the police station, Ji-won takes a forensic kit, but before she goes, she starts looking through the files on the murder of the village head, which again, she's pretty sure he's guilty. Hyun-soo is, whether it's her husband or not, is guilty of that crime. So she looks into it, and then she's reading what they're saying about him having like this possible personality disorder, and she's thinking this doesn't mesh with how she's seen him being empathetic and stuff with their daughter.
But then I think she also kind of puts it in how they first met and how he was.
Yes,
too.
Right. And I think that she thinks that it's because of them that he's better.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. And then she takes that kid to the basement, which she didn't have a key for. And I was like, sis! Red flags.
You weren't allowed there?
How is there a part of this business house that you weren't allowed in? Like, not only, like, not even, I can say, like, not allowed in, because it doesn't sound like it was, like, a verbal thing, but, like, but again, I guess on the other hand is, right. I guess on the other hand, it's his business, and you probably think the only thing down there is, and I mean, I'm sure she's been down there before, because the baby's toys and stuff is down there, but the fact that it's locked and she doesn't know where the key is, or at least she didn't have it, it was just like, but that didn't stop her. She bust that shit open and went down there. So, he dresses up like a doctor thanks to his dad. He had scrubs and the white lab coat, and I was like, nigga, if you get caught, how do you explain this? And the dad tells him he gets his wounds dressed once a day, but the night cop guarding him doesn't know that. So you can go in there and pretend to be going to redress his wounds. And he gives him the syringe to do. And this is where we learn that Cabby was faking. He was waiting for him to come and kill him. And he's like, tell me.
Because he thought he would do it, like, at least tell him the truth right before killing him.
Right. And he's like, I don't know where your wife is. I was not in on this shit. And so while the wife is in the basement, she finds blood spatter. She finds zip tie with blood on it. And she just starts crying. And we think he's going to kill the cabbie, but he makes a deal with him. He's like, you're going to die, so you need to spend the little time you have left trying to really find out who this person is. Because the keychain was given to my sister. And there's somebody, like, setting me up and, like, you know.
He said he has estimated 2 months.
But, like,
he has cancer.
Right. But, like, he in jail.
What was he going to do?
Right. That's what I don't understand. I'm like, you might have been doing him a solid by killing him there. But I guess it's good that he didn't because, like, the cop figured it out. He overheard those two doctors talking about. She's like, I don't like going in there to change his shit. It's creepy. Yeah. So if he had been dead, they would have been looking for somebody dressed as a doctor and all that. But yeah, because he wasn't. Oh my God, what
they're gonna think though? Because he's not dead. Nothing happened.
What if somebody came in there and just put his drip on?
Without knowing, because it's not in there.
Like, how'd this get in the off position?
Let me turn this on.
Yeah, he really needs to be like, don't ever, can you take this out, please, somebody?
I'd be ripping that shit out just like the other dude.
Yeah, that's true.
Anytime I see somebody do that on a TV show or movie, it just, because I just seeing the needles and stuff, how deep they go in and how big they are. When people rip that shit out, I know. I actually have that in a story that I wrote, and it pained me to type it, but couldn't be avoided. I don't know why I have water written here. I don't know.
Water?
I don't know what happened. I can't read my own notes. I don't know. The witness comes forward. And she was like, back then I had an answer machine. This old timey technology. It's like, Jesus Christ. And she plays it, and it's basically the person threatening her. But they're just going to think that that's Hyun-soo.
That's right. That's who I thought. I thought it was the father.
But the father was dead.
Yeah. So then I don't know who it is. Oh, you mean they think it's going to be the son?
That they're going to think Hyun-soo called and left her that message. Because
it didn't sound like him, though.
No, because...
Well, it had a voice mod on.
Well, here's the thing. Right. It had a voice modification, but the thing is, not the father wasn't dead. He had an alibi for... His son was the alibi.
Right.
So the son is saying, no, he was with me. Like, he's like, my dad did not kill your wife.
Right.
The fact... And because he knows that's true, then he knows... You get what I'm saying? Like, we, the audience, knows that's not who left that recording, but they don't know that. They're going to think it was Hyun-soo who left that recording.
Right.
Or maybe the father. That they were lying about the alibi. But they know it's somebody else. And I'm just like, who the fuck could that be?
It's his uncle.
Maybe.
His father had a brother. Helped him.
And the episode ends where she goes to meet the wife. Ji-won goes and meets the wife, and she gets the bag. And in the bag is like a recorder, the keychain. And it was just, she was like, this was his, like he left it when he lived with the guy.
I thought it was at the restaurant. They didn't live in the restaurant, right? She said she was going through the stuff in the restaurant. No, she said this was Hyun-soo's. My husband said that Hyun-soo left it and he kept it, but I think they just met at the restaurant. Because remember, that's not the restaurant they worked at. They worked at the restaurant together with the old man owns. Yeah. And remember, he said he sold him though, in case he would ever come back for it. So I'm assuming if he kept the bag, it would probably
because they lived together. I'm going to go back to that episode because I'm positive they were roommates. But either way, this is where she gives her speech. Like, this is weird because, like, sis, I just gave you all this evidence and now you're like, well, we don't really know.
It's like awfully defensive.
It's like she was pushing too hard.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how it ends. I can't even make predictions at this point because...
I told you, the wife's going to confront him. They're going to... Somehow the wife's going to... I mean, he's going to tell her the truth and... She's not going to tell anybody.
You think she's going to confront him now?
Yes.
No. She's going to just throw that duffel bag. Explain
that. Or it could be, like I said before, take her in front of... I mean, all she has to do is take him to that restaurant, see the old guy, bring his sister over there. I don't know. But there's people that know what he looks like. Mm-hmm. Now we know there's two players in here that absolutely know for a fact.
Yeah, yeah.
But I feel like it's getting to the point where too many people are getting to know who he is. He can't hide very much longer.
Sorry, I'm just making a drug deal. My cousin offered me something. She's like, can you smoke? I'm like, no, I cannot. Not with this heart. Cannot. Anyway, you got anything else before we wrap this one up?
I really want to know why you wrote water in your notes.
And it was between... Hold on. Let's see what happened. Well, Donnie, do you have the episode on?
No.
It's after he makes a deal with the cabbie, but before the witness comes forward. And I don't know what happened. And I just wrote water.
Like, other than him putting the injection in the thing, I don't know.
You know what's interesting? What I don't quite buy is that, like, the detective, Hyun-soo was unconscious for 10 days, and the reporter didn't have to answer questions. He said, and I think that's like a lazy plot device.
Yeah. What do you mean he didn't have to? But he wasn't involved.
He was. He was at the woman's house and he got jumped. And then the husband later said that he just tagged along with the reporter. But the reporter doesn't know that that's what he was. Remember, because when they finally talked on the phone, he said, listen to me carefully. Because they had to get their story straight. Mm-hmm. So I just find it weird that he would go 10 days without the police being like...
Why were you there?
Why were you there? Why was her husband there? Did you... Right. Like, I think that is... Because they had no way of, like, thinking... They didn't get that story together beforehand because they didn't plan on getting caught. Mm-hmm. They didn't know that, you know, that was going to happen. So, I don't know. Let's see. I'm going to fast forward and we'll see if we can jog my memory as to why I wrote water in the thing. Donnie, what do you think? What is your theory on the car accident and the son?
I have no fucking clue. Like, because the son was healthy at that point. But the fact, like, because of the father's feeding him through a tube and stuff like that, it comes off like he got sick.
Oh, like a natural cause? I don't know, because he says the mother's temper is what got them in trouble 15 years ago. So I feel like I think Haley's right, and then she did something to him. But what I also don't understand, like, I wish I remembered the conversation he was having on the phone before the accident. Like, I was thinking it was going to tell us something. Oh, maybe it says watch. He realizes his watch is gone.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe that doesn't say watch. That says watch. Yes.
Mm-hmm. He noticed it.
He notices. And we were like...
How did it take you this long?
Right? And then he immediately flashes back to getting his ass thrown across the room.
By his wife.
That's what it is. But yeah, I was hoping like the conversation would like kind of clue us in as to whether or not the son was like a good person. So I kept waiting for it to be, you know what I mean? But it just sounded like a normal conversation.
It's gotta be so awkward because the wife has the watch and like, is she just gonna hold on to it? She's not gonna return it to her husband because like, how would you return it to your husband?
It's interesting that he doesn't think that the watch got messed up in the water. Like, if I noticed that my watch was missing all these days after I'd been unconscious for 10 days and all this traumatic shit happened to me, it's interesting that he went back to that moment. Like, it's when he did lose it. Mm-hmm. He really should know when he lost it. Mm-hmm. For all he knows, it was, you know, when they took him in the hospital, they take all your stuff off. Mm-hmm. And I mean, she could say that. She could be like, oh, yeah, it was. Yeah. But I don't know. So, all right. Well, that's it. We'll be back next week to talk about, what are we on now?
7 and 8.
7 and 8, yeah. 7 and 8. Thank you guys for listening. As always, we appreciate you being a subscriber. If you are time travel, you are listening to this a week before anybody else. And you also have some great content just for you. Donnie and I already recorded for The Peripheral. The first 2 episodes will be available soon. Actually, no, by the time you guys, because we're ahead, by the time you guys listen to this, you'll have a whole bunch of stuff. You'll have Devil's Hour and that. Just as a special thank you for sticking with us and subscribing. Okay, that's it. We'll talk to you next time.